So welcome, Maitreyi.
Hi.
Now, first of all, a really huge congratulations because, I know that you got early entry to Macquarie Uni and a scholarship, which is incredible. So what did you receive early entry to Macquarie for?
Media and communications.
Fantastic. And was that a goal degree for you in terms of what you want to study?
It was actually my first preference, so that was just perfect.
Amazing. So you've got early entry, first preference choice, dream course, which is incredible. I guess the great part about early entry is, you've got a guaranteed entry regardless of ATAR.
Yeah.
How does that make you feel?
It's a really big relief because it means now I'm just studying more for my enjoyment, I guess, and just for my personal best rather than for the ATAR.
And feeling, that extra level of stress, I imagine.
Yeah, it took a big stress off me, yeah.
Now, you also, as part of it, received a scholarship. How much, what's the scholarship for?
It's a $10,000 scholarship for international students per year, so annual.
Which is amazing. And because how many years is that degree?
3 years.
$30,000 across the course of your degree. And I know that was really important for you because as an international student, well, not really, you've been, here for quite some time, but just by dint of, circumstance, you weren't eligible for a HEX place or a HELP place, unfortunately. So, I know that studying for, full fee, international fees for university is pretty expensive. Yeah. So I think that's fantastic. I mean, how did that feel when you found out that you'd also got this scholarship?
It was just unbelievable. I just stared at the scholarship letter for 5-10 minutes. I was at school, so I was calling my mom up in the moment. Yeah, it was incredible.
That's so good. I'm so happy for you. That's so great to hear. Now, I want to rewind a little bit because, that's obviously the good news story at the end of the journey, which is, this early entry to dream course and a scholarship. But of course, the start of that journey, did you expect that to happen?
No, at the start of year 12, I guess term 1, when I was just looking to apply, I was really skeptical of even just getting an entry, and I didn't even know I had an opportunity to accept a scholarship. I didn't know that was available.
So a lot's changed then, right? Yeah. From the start of the year 12 journey to where you are today with this fantastic offer. So I want to dig in and understand what that journey was like. Now, I guess first step, what was the overall early entry application process like with, in this case, Macquarie University? What did you have to do? What did it look like?
So I had to list 2 to 3 leadership activities, leadership and I guess community interest activities that I did, and do a little reflection on not each activity, but just one activity and then just a broader about all 3 activities.
And when did you work out you were going to apply for, specifically Macquarie entry, early entry?
During our Pathfinder intensive, because I remember we were talking about how to decide what unis you want to go to, and one of the main factors was things like scholarship options and how close it is to your house and stuff like that. And Macquarie it just seemed like the perfect option for me because it was quite flexible for international students as well. So Macquarie's just always been a goal for me.
Awesome. So we had this intensive, and as part of that we were sort of, I think, having a conversation about really trying to plan, wasn't it? About what are your preferences going to look like and what early entry exists even. Yeah. So did you know before that intensive that there was an early entry available for Macquarie for the courses that you were thinking about?
Yeah, I did know Macquarie had that early entry option. I was a bit unsure about whether it was available for international students too. But then I realized it was, so I was just...
Great, yeah. So I'm going to 100% put an application in, which is awesome. And so then you started the application process. How did working with your mentor, Amelia, help you with that application?
Oh, it was perfect because she helped me go through all the leadership activities I've done since year 10. So it made me realize I've done things that I just completely forgot about. So it just sort of boosted my confidence as well. Yes, I have done leadership activities, and then it helped me sort of refine what I would talk about for each activity.
Cool, so it sounds like there's a couple of steps in this process. There's one, picking your activities that you want to talk about, and then once you've managed to pick them, and remember what you have done, then it's about how you write and how you communicate those activities in the application. So, were there any, either from your mentor or any Pathfinder workshops or intensives that it helped you do both of those, pick your activities and write, and if so, how did they help?
For sure. I mean, my mentoring session with Amelia really helped me pick my activities and narrow them down, just go through everything I've done. And then our Pathfinder intensive helped me to actually write and what like Macquarie was looking for. So it helped me sort of write in a way that I would meet the requirements and everything.
Fantastic. And what was like a key strategy or idea that you took away from that intensive on how to write that application?
The intensive, I remember it mentioned like the hero's journey, and that was really important because I'm an English extension student, so it was like a good sort of framework to apply to early entry then. And that was basically, you know, sort of focusing more on the growth where you had a situation and then you applied or like you changed the situation and you did something in that situation to then grow from that experience. And I think that sort of connecting it to English and that sort of writing framework really helped me out.
So I think what I'm hearing there is very much this sense of, not needing to say from the get-go in an application, look at me, I'm awesome. Because that's sort of what you want to do naturally, I think, to try to get the opportunity. It's actually about how do you show your growth. Because ultimately, that's going to be great for a university because they know, well, you've got a commitment to learning, you're going to grow, you're going to come into their environment, and you're going to continue to grow in that way. And so it shows a lot about who you are and your attitude, which is fantastic. So the hero's journey, which is cool, bringing that into your application. Now, what's, and this is maybe related, what's something that you wouldn't have thought to do or include in your application if it hadn't been for Amelia and some of the workshops and intensives in the Pathfinder program?
I don't think I would have included some sort of flaw or like a setback that I had because I would have just assumed that Macquarie is looking for how incredible I am, but not really looking for, how I've grown or what mistakes I've made. So I don't think I would have included that in my application.
And so what was if you feel comfortable sharing, the mistake or the challenge that you included in your application?
So the challenge was probably in relation to one of my activities where I talked about how I didn't really have that much confidence as like a public speaker and a leader, but then my activity, which was the News Champions Forum that I did, really helped me to gain that confidence and sort of develop as a leader, public speaker, that sort of stuff. And I wouldn't have included that because I'd have been, no, Macquarie wants to know that I'm confident.
And I guess it's funny because in doing that, you still showed them that you were confident, but just you took them through the journey of how you became confident, which is really, really great to hear. Now, in thinking about the actual writing of the application itself, were there any other sort of tips or strategies or support through the program that you found really helpful in helping you create and craft your application?
Yeah, the program definitely helped, especially the one-on-one feedback you provided when I shared my application with you, where you sort of read through it and gave me specific feedback for each part of what I wrote. And I found that really useful for one of my activities where you said avoid a laundry basket list of just everything you've done and focus on like 2 to 3 main ideas that really shows your achievement. And that was really helpful because I did have a lot of unnecessary stuff in that part of it.
And it's so hard because you do want to show that you're good, that you're worthy, right, of the opportunity. And so it is really counterintuitive because it's very much the idea that sometimes less is more. That actually picking one, as you said, or 2 things and talking about them more deeply is often going to be a lot more effective than, talking about the 10 amazing things that you might have done. So that's so great to hear. What advice would you give for other students as they embark on the process of writing early entry and scholarship applications?
I'd say number 1, be confident and just sort of go for it. Don't think, oh, I haven't done any activities, so what's the point? Just go for it anyways, come up with the activities. If you don't think your activities are good, apply anyways and like fake it till you make it apart, like to some extent really, because ultimately the uni is looking for it, and even if you don't think it's that important, the uni does see its value.
So a question, do you feel that most students discount the activities that they have?
Definitely, including me and so many of my other friends, where I know some people have done a lot of leadership activities, but they just don't realize it.
And so it seems like then a big hurdle, even just throughout this entire process, is, as you said, just to apply. Like just to believe, you know what, actually I'm going to suspend my own disbelief in myself or lack of belief in myself and put the application in, because as you found out, I mean, you never know what the result could be.
When I was applying, I was a bit sort of pessimistic, I guess, where I was like, even if I get an entry, I probably won't get a scholarship, so it's kind of pointless. But then I applied anyways, and then I got the scholarship. So I was just, sometimes I reflect, like, what if I had given up and hadn't submitted it?
Very different outcome.
Yeah.
And I want to come back to, now that you've got the early entry, which is fantastic, what has that done to just your sort of stress and your overall sense of well-being?
It's definitely improved it a lot, where I'm sort of not in that like negative mindset, because I was really pessimistic, especially during second term, first term, where I was just, no, like I'm not gonna get a scholarship, I'm probably not going to be able to stay in Australia maybe. And it was just a really negative mindset. But I guess getting the scholarship just changed my entire mindset and attitude towards exams and HSC, where I'm just feeling more positive about it.
Which is amazing. It's so great to hear. And so, the broad advice that you had for other students, which was great, was apply.
Yeah.
Don't discount yourself. They've applied, or they're going through the application process. What advice would you give them for writing their application?
Start early so that you can keep drafting and redrafting your application to sort of perfect it. And I guess it's a short word, like character counts, especially for Macquarie Uni. Others unis probably had it quite short as well. So it's about like sort of just being really concise, which you can get through starting early and drafting it a couple of times.
So how many revisions did you have on yours?
A lot. I had 3 major ones where I made like big changes to it, the whole structure and everything. And then a couple of little ones of just changing some words around and stuff like that.
So it took work.
Yeah, it did.
I mean, it's paid off, but it took work. And so then it sounds like that's why starting early and having a plan really becomes quite important if you're really wanting to maximise the quality of what you submit, and then hopefully the likelihood that you get it. So how early did you start working on your application?
I started working on it during our opportunity intensive, which I think was around April or March or something. Yeah, and I started thinking about it then and sort of listing my activities, sort of planning out what key points I would link to those activities, what qualities I would link to them. And then just sort of thinking about what Macquarie was looking for as well, where I did some research into the uni, their core values, stuff like that, so that I knew what sort of keywords to integrate in my response so that Macquarie knows that like I'm doing what they are looking for, I guess.
And that you're serious about it.
Yeah.
Because I think ultimately you were, like it was, as you said, it was your dream course.
Yeah.
And so definitely, I mean, that's awesome. I mean, April is definitely quite early on in the year.
Yeah.
When did you submit your application?
Well, I submitted it on like the very last day that it was due, because I just kept going through it, making it the best I possibly could. And then choosing my course preferences took me a while, so I did submit it on the last day.
And so when was that in terms of timing?
I think it was July 7th.
Cool. So you can see that really by planning early, it gave you a couple of months to be able to, and it sounds like, I mean, throughout that process, you've still got the HSC to do. You've still got assessments at school. By July, trials are on the horizon. And so it seems like by planning early, you were able to just drip feed a little bit at a time. So I'm assuming, did it get in the way of your studies for HSC?
No, it didn't really too much, because I started early, because, I started in the holidays when there wasn't, I guess, as much work to do. So then, when term came around, I could sort of put it to the back of my mind for, those really hectic weeks, and then focus on it again once the workload decreased, so that I could, not be worried about it, like, oh, I have so much to do. It was like, no, I have some of it done, I just need to do this part of it. I just need to write it out, stuff like that.
That's great. And so that ends up helping you balance it so that you can get it done and still do the study that you need, which is awesome. The Pathfinder program, I guess, has 3 core objectives, right? It's to help students lift their results, to find direction, and importantly, to stand out as well. How do you think the Pathfinder program, helped you find direction and stand out?
It definitely helped me stand out because of some of the things we covered in the intensive where, you recommended to choose different activities that people may not know about or haven't heard about, which then helped me narrow down my activities where a lot of my initial ideas were sort of quite mainstream things that a lot of other students have done. But then I got thinking about what I could do to make me stand out in my application. And then how to write. So I remember one thing you mentioned was a superstar effect, where you sort of mentioned some key organizations or something to really make you stand out. So then I mentioned ABC Education in mine and stuff like that, which then I think that really helped me stand out for my application.
So it sounds like, yes, it's about, in terms of standing out, taking what you have, because we all have stuff.
Yeah.
We might not always believe it, but we all do. And then looking at how you can take what you have, pick the things that will hopefully differentiate you the most. And then once you've done that, then use that to the best that you can to showcase who you are, which is, really fantastic. Any final comments, anything, final that you'd like to share about the whole early entry process and the sort of Pathfinder journey with it?
It was great because Pathfinder really helped, especially through the feedback and the personalized feedback. That was definitely a big help for me. So yeah, awesome. It was just great.